Here's a question for you. Are horror games losing their scariness? So I recently found this blog called Sabotender's blog on Destructoid, and it really got me thinking about all the horror games that I've been playing recently and comparing them to the ones that I used to play when I was a kid. Games that were huge when I was a kid were Silent Hill and Resident Evil 2. Those graphics at the time were amazing, and although really unrealistic at times, they still scared a lot of people. I mean, sometimes they were a garbled mess on the screen, but through sound alone, they could provide some real nightmare material. Kind of like the first-person shit in Jurassic Park for Super Nintendo. That scared the shit out of me when you had to fight the raptors. I think my age had something to do with it with the older games, because I was so young and I could get scared easily. Like, I was scared of the dark for a while, so anything could really scare me really well. I mean, now I don't give a shit about most things, and I'm so desensitized to, like, gore and blood and mangled messes on the wall you see in games. It's just like, oh, okay, cool. Seen that before, done it. Of course, I'm not saying that all games now are crap. There are still so many games that can scare the shit out of people. Like, the biggest one in most recent memory that I can think of is Amnesia, where people just quit after, like, first, 5 minutes. I managed to get through the game, but I had a friend pushing me saying, no, you have to fucking finish this shit, or else I'm not ever gonna play games with you. So it's like, yeah, I kinda had to do that. But, not a fun experience. I freaked the shit out a lot. When you look at it, though, a lot of them nowadays are kind of relying on jump scares just to, like, get that quick, cheap little scare out of you. And I don't really like that too much. Certain old games still disturb me now more than new games. Silent Hill 1 is one of them. I still haven't actually finished it fully because I hate that school where there's the little, like, ghost children with knives that just, like, clamor at you and stop you, and it's just, oh, so creepy. So I'm also thinking, is it the way the horror is displayed? I kind of divided it into two things. It's either subtle, like, subtle scary shit, or completely in your face. Like, obviously jump scares are in your face because it's like first person view, and then this thing comes out of nowhere, the music plays, and you're like, holy shit, oh my god. And I get that from Outlast, which in the trailer it shows one of those jump scares, and you got a whole bunch of those videos where everyone's like, oh shit. But yeah, this is the clip here. And like, it's not bad, but I really prefer subtle. Like, one of the things I can think of is in Condemned Criminal Origins, where there's the mannequins that just suddenly start moving around you, and you have no fucking clue why, and then they get closer and closer and, like, kind of back you in a corner, and you're like, what the fuck is going on? So I think that subtlety and not knowing what's happening is way more effective than the cheap, like, instant jump scares that happen. One of the biggest fears in, like, for humans is the fear of the unknown. I was looking at a whole bunch of lists just to confirm this, so I'm not just pulling something out of my ass. A lot of the things that were feared the most is death, failure, pain, but I mean, you can't really portray that through a game. Fear of the unknown is easily done in games. If they do it right, our imagination just runs wild, and it scares us more than what's actually there. It's getting into your mind that really, oh, it's a good thing to have. Now, in Sabotender's blog, he mentions fixed cameras are good for immersion. It says it puts more in control of the director's hands instead of the players. More recent horror games have it, like, over your shoulder type thing, because Resident Evil 4 had that, and it kind of exploded from there. And, like, from that, you're in control of it. And having a horror game where you're not in control, it's way better. Like, it gets scarier. And he also mentions, like, I'm not playing Resident Evil as Jill Valentine, I'm watching what happens to Jill. It's kind of like the a voyeuristic film quality. He mentions it there. And that's way more effective than, like, oh, I'm completely in control. But, I don't know, I like fixed cameras. It brings out something that most games can't do. Like, I know there's a fixed camera leads you into running into enemies blindly, and, like, yeah, it can be pretty annoying, but I mean, it's the whole control thing. Like, the less control you have, the more scared you are. If you combine that with the unknown as well, then holy shit, you got a great game. And he also mentions about graphics, because developers are pushing and pushing for better graphics. And before, you could barely make out what the fuck was a chair, and that, it kind of distorts you a bit. And so you're like, I don't know what that is. And of course it comes back to the fear of unknown. Horror doesn't have to have fixed cameras, doesn't have to have good graphics, doesn't have to have a whole bunch of stuff. There's a game based on a short story called I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which you learn through character interaction, and all the dialogue, it can really be disturbing, like when you figure out certain things, like there's a scene where one of the characters is in an elevator and she recalls some horrifying memories, and it's frightening. Like, this is the clip right here.
Jesus. It's him!
You thought you had blocked me out of your memory forever, except for those inconvenient attacks of hysteria every now and then. But I've returned for you.
Maybe not everyone is creeped out by that guy, but the interaction between the two, you know something bad is happening, and maybe about to happen as well, and it's just like... Now, I know I've gone on about old games, and how, like, new games aren't that great, but I mean, they're still scary. I mean, I still get scared and disturbed at certain games, and, like, they are great, but, I don't know, they just have that one quality that, they don't need to trick you anymore. They have enough graphics to show everything, instead of hiding things through, I don't know, the old Silent Hill games. They had the fog because the rendering was, it couldn't render too far, so the fog was to cover that up because it was just a graphical mistake. But it became a signature thing in Silent Hill, and the remakes get rid of it, and you can see how shit it is. So, like, I don't know. It's like counterproductive. It's like the limitations made them do more simple things, and like, I don't know, they were more creative with their scares and whatnot. But now that they have so much power to do a whole bunch of different things, I don't know, most of the horror games just kind of turn into like the same kind of thing, where you're overpowered, you have like a vast array of weapons usually, and you're just like kind of like some sort of like super soldier. Like Sabotender mentioned in his post, the protagonists in horror games these days are seen as indestructible superheroes with almost no character flaws and devoid of real human emotion. And I mean, that's not great. I mean, horror games, you need the character to be scared as well, for you to be scared.
Hey, wait, what's going on? Where is everybody? Those weird monsters?
If you hide behind this really buff, like, super soldier, then you're not going to feel scared, because you know you're more powerful than anything in the world. It's a big topic for me. I'm not saying the horror games nowadays aren't scary and that they're shit. There's some still really good ones out there. It's just that they get a bit samey, and I don't know. It just doesn't appeal to me, personally, but maybe it does for other people. So how have horror games lost their scare? Have graphics played against horror games? Have, I don't know, sounds? Maybe the graphical limitations were a blessing for horror games where they had to think outside the box. Maybe horror games haven't lost their scare and I'm just crazy. Let me know and I will reply to the comment in the next Game Talk. Let's take a look at the comments from the last episode regarding reviews and how they influence people. First comment from Infel says that they take a glance at the reviews, and they're not the hugest decision and not really important, but it helps with research. And that overly positive reviews of games are usually scrutinized a bit more, and often they become disappointed because they're the high expectations, and it's kind of like the hype behind the game. So, yeah, you get a lot more disappointed, which I completely agree, because some people just overhype shit. It's not great. Periodic Wars mentions looking for reviews by smaller companies and more private, like, reviews, because they're a bit more accurate than the possibly paid-off companies like IGN, where they gave the Call of Duty is best game ever, 10 5 stars, and then they gave Mass Effect 3, which is absolutely a fucking amazing game, 9 out of 10. And so, like, your opinion drops a shit ton when games that deserve better are given shit, and then games that are just, like, the same churned out shit that get amazing remarks, and, yeah. So, yeah, more private reviews on like actual gamers and not paid journalists, it's probably a lot better. Jay Smiles says that game reviews don't influence them too much because there's just so much inaccuracies and everything. Like the paid game trailers in IGN, and then the popular scores with the same game over and over again, Call of Duty, and it loses credit because like you don't want that crap. I mean, it's all fake. Like even some of the gaming community users, they react so negatively and so like they're very toxic against certain games, and the only good opinion is that you're the only one who can decide that the game is credible. You have to rely on your own opinion. If you like the game, then buy it. Phage54 says that they hardly read reviews. They don't share their opinions, they might play differently, they might not be knowledgeable about it, they might focus on points that doesn't matter, like graphics, and they get paid to do a good rating. Yeah, I see a lot of the horribleness of being paid to do reviews, which is pretty shit. I have to agree with that. And it warps the entire like score of a game, and like it could be a really good game, but no, they didn't get paid enough. So what they also say is that they base everything on their own opinion. They look at stuff, they judge how it is. Often don't look at like developer trailers, like reviewers like that are paid. Publisher trailers maybe, and that makes sense because then you get just like the purest form of the game, and that's what you want. Foy10 says that game journalism is pretty much shit. I think a lot of people agree with that, and that they only care about game publishers' pedigree and word of mouth. Small degree of scarcity is also a good thing. I agree with that as well because I bought a shit ton of games that no one knew about, which is why I started doing the Game Light series, because I had too many of them. But yeah, it just makes them more special, and I guess and not as public, and it's not as like ridiculed as much in the gaming communities. Omega Metroid has an amazing comment here about game hype and how it absolutely can ruin a game so bad. And I think the most recent one is Watch Dogs, where everyone is absolutely tearing it apart when it's actually an okay game if you like don't compare it with like GTA and shit. They say that they generally stay away from reviews unless it's something that they're really anticipating, which is understandable because you want to get hype for it. But then, of course, the opposite can also happen, where reviewers hype up a game to the point of ridiculousness, and then it can't possibly live up to all of that. And that's what happened to Watch Dogs, where it's like everyone is tearing it apart, and it's not bad. So basically, don't watch a lot of reviews. Take it with a grain of salt. Of course, yeah, like it can influence you subconsciously, but like yeah, just don't let the hype get to you. Like don't get it too much, or else it's just gonna ruin everything. Unless it does turn out to be the absolute most amazing game, which is kind of rare. Anyways, thanks for all those comments, and I hope you comment again.